Gadget UK here again. As you can see, Sega Megadrive Mark II. So I've had a few of these actually for repair, I guess, at various points. I ordered, when I got my Mega CD here, it came as part of a job lot. It was £50 and it came with two Mark 1s and two Mark 2s. All of them faulty and all of them I got working. They were all just clean-up jobs really, apart from the Mega CD that needed a recap. But I sold those on, and I didn't get much at the time. They sell for next to nothing. I think, you know, it's like, say, it cost me 50 quid for the Mega CD and 4 Mega Drives, and I got, I think on average, about £7 for each of those Mega Drives back then. I sold them back as a job lot again to somebody else who was like a reseller of Mega Drives. He would package in games and controllers and things and sell at a power supply and sell a pack. So for him, £7 each, they were a bargain. So for me, you know, you work it out, there's like, I got £24 back, so my Mega CD cost me 26 quid, which was not bad. But yeah, so what I should have done is kept one of these, because the two that I sold, you know, they were pristine condition. Now this one's just as good actually. I think this has had a clean up. You know, other than a few light scratches here, it's pretty good, that actually. There's really barely a mark on it. So yeah, but the reason I've got one of these, aside from wanting one because I've not got a Mark II, is for the video cable, because the video cable I'm using with the 32X here, it's the mini type connector. You know, it's not the normal DIN. That means if I want to play Master System games via the Everdrive, I've got to remove the 32X, and then I can't then use my RGB lead, because the RGB lead from here that goes into 32X is not the same type that goes into here, whereas this accepts the same type of lead. At the moment I've just got a composite lead coming out there. So yeah, I wanted one of these so that I can just literally, you know, plug my cable in, switch the power supply over and just plug my Everdrive in there and play Master System games. So that's why I purchased this. So we'll clean this up, I think. But in the first instance, obviously, you know, it's described as faulty. We want to see what's wrong with it. So, I mean, the first thing I'll show you, if you just look down the cart slot here, not sure if you're going to be able to see this, I'll do it from that side. I'll try and zoom you in a bit. I know it's going to be a bit blurry here until I just open the doors a bit. Can you see we've got a green pin there? So I'm hoping it is just dirty slot. That typically is what's, you know, that's the main problem you get generally with all Mega Drives. On these, the power connector on the back there, you get a bad solder point as well. That's quite common on Mark 2s. So we'll get my copy of Turtles. This was actually a faulty Sonic cart. The chip at the mask ROM failed, so I took it off and put an EEPROM on there and then printed a cheap label here that I just created myself. It's awful quality, it really is. And that's got the colour enhanced version of that game actually, Turtles the Hyperstone Heist. So if I point you the TV, and I'll show you, we are just getting the typical black screen. This is what you get generally on Mega Drives when, you know, you've got cart slot problems. So, you know, I've stuck the cart in and out a good dozen times actually so far, not made a difference, and that pin still looks very, very, very green actually. If I look at the side of the pin, you know, the surface of it, it's just green. So I suspect it may just be that single pin. I mean, there could be a fault as well. So I think in the first instance I'm going to fold some paper, get some IP on it, and just push it in and out the slot there, clean the slots up, and just see if that will actually just get it up and running before we take the lid off. But then we'll, you know, proceed to take the lid off and have a look inside, clean things up and stuff. I'll clean it all up and show you the end result. Yeah, so I've ripped off paper, folded in two. We'll just fold this and just keep folding this until it's, you know, approximately the thickness of that there. It doesn't need to be quite as thick. Just 2 or 4 times we'll do it. That's probably enough now actually. We'll give it a try like that. And just literally just, you know, stick some IPA on the end of there. If you've got a spray type of thing, you could distribute it a bit easier that way. But all we need is some IPA on the edge there. And then it's a case of holding the slots open and just push the paper in and out of the slot. Yeah, it can be easier said than done actually, especially while I'm trying to do it on camera as well. And it's easier with the lid off. You know, if I took the lid off, this would be much easier to do. And you can see, you know, the corrosion's coming off there. So that seemed to make no difference, but I couldn't really clean it very thoroughly because of the flap. You know, the flap was kind of hindering it. So we still got the connector, you know, the cover there. That's interesting. So we'll just go around now and remove the 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on the underside. Get the top off. So now we've got the lid off, we can see what looks like some corrosion or damage down here actually. So yeah, we could have a corroded damaged trace actually, it might be something like that. Just there, looks like we've potentially got a trace gone. So I think the next one we'll do is get the shielding off. So it's the screws around the outer edges here, the black ones, in order to remove this piece of shielding. So with the shielding removed, we can see it's kind of like a reduced chipset count there, the Mark II. We've got a Sega ASIC there, 315-5660. So that's going to be combining a few different things. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. What is that? It's like a little hybrid board or something with some caps or something on it. I've never seen that before in all my times I've been inside these. Maybe I just never noticed it. That's very odd. It's a CA1. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute when I've worked out what it is. We've got 68,000 processor down here. You know, it's the PLCC version on these. A couple of Toshiba RAM chips there. And typically, the only faults you get with Mega Drives in general, as long as your VDP doesn't fail, well, this probably got something else combined with that. It's not just a VDP. I think the Z80 maybe merge with that on this as well, because I don't see, unless that's it there. Yeah, I'll try and zoom in on that in a minute, but I'm guessing that's perhaps another RAM. Yeah, it looks like it is. Sanyo, yeah, that's another RAM. It's got -10. Oh, that could be the Z80, is it? Yeah, that's the Z80. Yeah, sorry, you can't quite see this. Yeah, ignore what we're saying. The Z80 is not merged with this. That's the Z80. It's the, again, PLCC version. It says 84C00, I think it is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's your sound RAM, because you can see the connections coming up here to the Z80 there, so that's your sound RAM. And then you've got your video RAM down here. Video RAM can fail. I'll post a link down below. Jay's Vintage Junk did a repair on a Mega Drive recently, actually, and this ZIF VRAM here, it's probably SRAM, but yeah, video RAM, VRAM, is connected to here, so the VDP is going to be contained within this as well. But those can fail. You can get graphical issues there. You know, you can get sound problems. Typically, it'll be your sound RAM or your Z80. And then over here with the CPU, you've got your main work RAM. Now, I have seen instances where the work RAM fails actually, and the interesting thing is these look like SRAMs actually on this, but on the original Mark I, you know, like a VA0 like I've got, there are a couple of what they call PS RAMs, and they're quite long, really long, you know, elongated chips, and those can fail. I've had to replace those a few times. When I was back in the day when I was in the trade, we did have a Mega Drive come in with, and it would like start to boot a game and then just freeze with like a red screen and some blocks or something, and that was what it was. I took a punt and actually swapped out that one of those PSS RAM chips, and that fixed it. So yeah, anyway, the main thing is we've got in here now. We can see, oh, it looks pretty dirty under there. You can see that. I don't know if they've got corrosion there. We might need to remove the socket there actually to deal with that. Can you see that? It's horrendous. So I think the next thing we're going to do is just clean up with some IPA and cotton buds around this area, inspect around here, just make sure there's no damage, because it does look like, well, see if we can zoom, but it does look like we've possibly got a missing trace there. I don't know, you can see that just where the thumbnail is. Yeah, so hopefully you can still see that. That's all I'm going to do. Yeah, you can see the muck was coming off there. It could just be dirt. There may not be any corrosion there, I'm not sure, but we may have to remove the cartridge slot in order to clean up the connections and traces under it if there is corrosion there. So if we go down here, see what this is looking like. Yeah, it's just primarily dirt, I think, but there is what looks like a missing or a damaged trace down there. The interesting thing with these, you know, I kind of call these like a baby Neo Geo, because that's kind of what they are. You know, it's got very similar in the way that you've got a slave architecture there for having a Z80, you know, primarily used for the sound, just like you get on the Neo Geo. This has got a Yamaha sound chip that has some similarities to some of the sound stuff on the Neo Geo again. So they kind of are, you know, like a baby Neo Geo, if you like. They've got a 68,000 CPU on there as well, just the same as the Neo Geo. Obviously it's not as fast, but yeah, there is a similarity there. So the next thing I'm going to do is just inspect with a magnifying glass actually, just to see what I can see. Yeah, so hopefully you can see the traces around here. We've got some you know, damaged traces, especially around here with one or two of these wires. So yeah, I'm going to have to, just those there, can you see that one? White one, centre of the shot there. Look at that, that's awful. So yeah, I'm going to clean up around there, scratch off a little bit, do some measurements, and maybe just tin up and flux, get some flux and tin up those connections there. Just make sure we've got a proper join across the other side. But here we've got what look like maybe some damaged traces. Look at that via there. Good grief, that's awful, that one. So that could be the fault, and then one or two that just go wrap around the side of the cart slot there. So you're not going to be able to see this very well. I'll give you a macro minute when I finish doing it, but I've got some flux around there, scratched off the corrosion on tops of those traces, got some flux. Just going to drag over with some solder braid with a bit of solder on there, and that should tin those up and or re-inspect. But I may have to remove the socket because there is no telling whether the damage is actually under there. I'm suspecting it could be the wires. So once we've reflowed that area there, and reflowed the wires in particular, I'll perhaps give it a retry at that point and just see if that's made any difference. So that didn't seem to make a difference. So I've got it on the ESD mat here. You can see all the corrosion here. It's had liquid or something, and we've got some more damage down here on the wires on this side. So I'm just going to clean up this side of the board and inspect, just see what's going on around here. So at this stage, I'm not convinced there's not corrosion under the slot here. So I'm going to remove it. As you can see, I've been desoldering each of the pins here. Just give time for the heat to flow through to both sides of the PCB. Sometimes go over each one a couple of times. We'll just repeat, continue this until we get to the end here, and then hopefully the slot should come off without any trace damage. They can be quite hard to remove these, especially where you've got thick traces for the VCC and ground rails. So in order to get the slots off, you have to cut the two rivets off actually, which is a bit of a pain. I mean, I could just put some pop rivets back in there. It's not essential, to be honest. It'll just help, with the connections there, just to make them a bit more reliable long term. But I was a bit disappointed really, because there was no corrosion. There was a bit of corrosion here on a wire. I've reflowed that. Couldn't see that until I removed the socket. But all the other connections there. I mean, there was one here as well, just where the wire goes there. A bit of a bad connection, but it wasn't a break, so the socket is not the issue. And I continued inspecting all around the board. One place I'd overlooked was down here. Now you can see I've tinned this up a little bit here. I'll do your macro in a minute. But the trace here that goes next to the LED, the copper has just disintegrated completely there on that outer trace, and on the one that's next to it, just on the corner, there's a couple of little breaks. So is that going to be the problem? I don't know. I mean, it's connected down here to, it could be power, maybe related to one of the power lines coming in somewhere, and the other one seems to go all the way here, all the way up to here somewhere, so it could be related to the CPU or something. It could be a critical line. So I'm going to patch those up. Now the way I'm going to do this, instead of tracing them all the way to the source destination, is having a wire across the board, because it's quite long. You've got the kind of, there's something that runs at this speed. It's not going to be that important, but they're matched in terms of length and stuff generally with high speed things. So I mean, it's a data, but it's probably a data or address bus connection or something. I really don't want a wire of a different length joining that sort of thing up, especially when it's such a long distance. It's not like just a small distance from one place to another. It's not like there's a via here and a via there and I can just join a wire up. So I think what I'm going to do is got some very, very fine coil wire actually that's the same sort of thickness as that trace. Using the magnifying glass, I'll just join it on one side and then join the other side up here and do the same for the other trace. And I'll perhaps give you a macro once I've done that. So there's a few damaged traces here, been tinned up, the ones underneath the slot here. So I'll get the slot back on. And I fixed down here, I'll show you on macro in a minute. I've not cleaned it up yet, but I fixed with two little wires there the two damaged traces. We'll get the cart slot back on, if we can, and give it a try. So I got the cart slot back on there. I need to clean up the flux, I need to clean up here and show you that. I think what I'll probably do is get a little bit of, I've got some like lock nut stuff, and I'll probably just cover that whole area there. It's kind of like a soft kind of epoxy. It's the sort of stuff that Lewis Rosman uses. It's like a resin sort of stuff that you just you drip it on there and let it set and it goes hard. Just to cover that, protect that area. But I think this is going to work. Now I'm annoyed I didn't spot that second bit of damage. Let's try it. Oh yes. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm annoyed I didn't spot that second bit of damage there, just down near that main ASIC, but the cart socket did need to come off there anyway because there was some corrosion underneath it. Is that frozen? We've got a second issue. We may have a second issue. Let's press reset. I mean, reset's working, but yeah, it would appear we have a second problem. So sorry it's a bit bright there, but as you can see, Pappy Commando is actually working fine. So maybe it's because I've been testing that Turtles cart and maybe I've dirtied the connections here, so I'll clean that cart up and see if that makes a difference. Yeah, the thing I was missing there is the ROM, which I'm now playing on the Megadrive, is US. There you go, that's, confused me that. I thought there was a problem there when it was trying to initialise the sound. Now, it sounds a bit odd because it's coming through one channel, because the lead I'm using is a cheap composite lead, and it's one of these ones where one channel is wired to the mono pin. So I think what I might do is I might just modify the connection underneath the Mega Drive, actually, similar to what I did on my Super SD System 3 actually from Terra Onion. Just connect the disconnect the mono pin from wherever that's going on the Mega Drive and just connect that up to the other sound channel, so that these cables I've got will work, because no one's going to use mono sound in this day and age with this. I certainly won't be doing. But yeah, so the colours just look a bit over the top there, because like I said, because the composite lead is an awful lead. But I should be able to get this connected via RGB later. So I cleaned all the flux off there, as you can see. Cart pins are looking pretty blooming good actually. So yeah, I could replace the rivets, so I'll probably do that. I'll do that off this video. I'll order a rivet kit there, some rivets of different sizes. Perhaps just give the board a clean up here as well. But the final thing now is to just clean around these areas I've touched up a little bit. And then I'll zoom in on this, and then I'll get some of that Loctite stuff on there just to cover that. You could use nail polish or something, I might just do that up here actually, just cover those with a bit of nail polish, and it's not the sort of thing I usually do. So here you go, you can see we've got a wire join here, and then the enamel covers this. It's, let's say, it's transformer winding this, and joins up down here, and then the next trace inwards joins here, and then just goes up and round, joins up there. So all I'm going to do is get some of that lock nut slip stuff, I can't remember what it's called, I'll show you in a sec, just stick a blob of it all around here, just so it'll set, it'll harden, and it'll support those cables and protect them in those places. And just before reassembling this, I've resoldered the power connector there as well, the DC jack on the back. It's that middle pin there. They always tend to break on these. I think Gruss Newton had that with one of his actually. I'll post a link down to his video down below, but as you can see, the cart slot's super clean there. So technically you could argue this is not required, but all I've done is cut the trace going to that top pin there and join those two pins up, so the mono pin is joined up to the audio right pin, and there's nothing going to the mono pin, because no one's ever going to use this with mono. I certainly won't be doing. It just means that I now can use any cheap AV cable with this, like the composite ones I've got, which have got the audio mapped incorrectly. Those should work okay. So as you can see, Master System games are working. Now, they weren't yesterday, and I'll show you what I had to do. It was really interesting actually. I thought what I'd come across here was an incompatibility issue. Now, I've not captured any footage of it, but what I was finding is only with Sega Master System games it was crashing and glitching actually very, very frequently. Road Rash, you couldn't even get off the start line. It would just crash pretty quickly actually. As soon as the race started, Bubble Bobble would you just left it running in demo mode. The title screen would come up, it would go into demo, and then the characters would start scrolling down the screen, and it would reset, and it would just go round and round and round. And if you were lucky, after it warmed up a bit, it would be a bit more reliable. But in other games, they would be worse when the system had warmed up. So it wasn't like a capacitor issue or anything like that. But there was, I'll switch this off, there was an issue. I'll show you what it was. So I'll give you a macro in a minute. The traces I repaired there was no issue with connectivity. I followed them. I followed the one down here all the way down to one of the pins on the transistor, just off shot here, down here, and all the way up to one of the wires. So I'll move the camera just so you can see. one of the wires up here, I forget exactly where it was, and then the same with the other trace. So I just followed them both and just tested continuity, and right up to the chip as well. One of them goes to the chip. In fact, I think yeah, one of them goes to the chip, one of them doesn't. No problems at all. Connectivity was there, dead short. You can see I've also added a heatsink on here. That was something I've not shown you so far, but yeah, I stuck a heatsink on there. It's stuck down pretty firm actually, and that heatsink is dissipating a lot of heat. It's been on for a number of hours now, and yeah, that's actually helped dissipate some of the heat there. So what was wrong? Well, I'll show you on a macro. We had a coupling issue. One of the little wires for the inner trace there was overlapping the third connection. I think there's three connections there, the one that wasn't damaged, and because it's such a fine cable, it's got no plastic covering on it, it's just protected by enamel. It's like an enamel coating, very thin, you know. There was a coupling issue. The traces, you know, the trace from that wire was picking up or influencing the signal on the trace that was underneath it. So I'll show you on macro. I've just shifted it. Okay, so you're on the macro now. So you can see that the wire here is okay. If you look where it goes, it's just coming down here to this outer trace. That was not a problem. Now this one, can you see I've straightened it? I pulled it down a little bit here, so it had a bit of extra length, so in order I could bend it around and follow the trace here. What was happening previously, and you may have seen that on the previous footage there, it was overlapping. When it came down here, it was overlapping this trace here, actually on this corner. And that was what was happening. It was the coupling between those two traces, because like I say, these, I don't know if you can tell, these are just like enamel coated. It's just literally a bare single strand of copper wire with like an enamel coating. And there wasn't like an electrical join, it was like a coupling from them being so close to each other. You know, the signal from one influences the other. You kind of get, you know, I've talked about it before, it's like parasitic capacitance type issue. Yeah, so as you can see, like I say, I bent it here, you know, and moved it away. I moved it down a bit because it was further up, it was up here a little bit, and just slid it down a bit and resoldered it. So, you know, that looks a bit of a mess, that area. It's not too bad. I'd like to see someone do a better job than that, really, with little wires like that. So what I've ordered actually is some nail polish. I have some green nail polish, and I'm just going to cover this area here with a bit of green nail polish, I think, and maybe the bits up here as well. But yeah, that was what it was. The interesting thing, you know, and you might not believe me, that I did have issues with that in the way that I've described, but I did actually post yesterday on the Cricks forum for this, you know, the MKII drive here, because like I said, I was convinced it was an incompatibility with this Mega Drive, because it was only on the Game Gear stuff. Now the interesting thing is, you know, I don't know if you're aware, but the Game Gear has a Z80 CPU, so this is how the Mega Drive is able to be, you know, backwards compatible. And that was quite a nice design, actually. The way they designed the Mega Drive, the Genesis, was quite cool, in the sense that they thought, you know, they were thinking ahead, thinking, how can we make it backwards compatible? Well, the easy way is to start from the ground up, start with your Master System functionality. So within this chip here, and probably within the VDP on a Mega Drive, you're going to have some of the functionality there that belongs to the Master System initially. You may be able to utilise it in the Mega Drive mode as well, I'm not sure. But, you know, they've started from the ground up kind of thing, with providing the Master System functionality to start with. And then thought, okay, well, how can we then expand that and make use of, say, the Z80? And the way they've done it is, like I say, coming back to my comment earlier about this being a kind of like a baby Neo Geo in my mind. You know, there's some similarities. The Z80 is used for the sound in the Mega Drive. So that's how they've utilised this, you know, that would be the primary CPU. And it's a similar thing with the sound. I think, you know, that you've got the sound functionality. I think in this particular one, the sound is probably on board this ASIC here. Yeah, because there's very little else on the board. You know, we've got some RAM up here, CPU, what looks like a DAC or something over here, a couple of little op amps here. They could be DACs, I'm not sure. They're marked BA something. They could be audio DACs. I don't think so. I'm not sure it outputs digital audio. So these are probably just op amps, I think. And then your RAM down here for your Z80. So, you know, there's very little on here. In this particular revision, everything's pretty much merged with this single ASIC. And that's one reason why I put heatsink on there. It's probably a good idea. The regulator gets incredibly hot actually on these. Now, when I think back to the Mega Drive Mark 1, I'm sure there were 2 regulators in there. Could be wrong. They may have used a couple of 5-volt regulators for different things, you know, to spread the load kind of thing. So it's no wonder on this one that gets absolutely super hot. So I mean, it might be a good candidate to swap out with a Recon or something on this. I'm just not sure whether it would be able to provide the current required by this. Having said that, there's not a lot of chips on here, is there? Other than maybe, you know, your 68,000 and your main asset key. Everything else is going to consume quite a low amount of power, I would think. So I think the next thing I'll do is I'll just get this in the sink, give it a bit of a scrub, you know, a scrubbing brush. You can see there's lots of dirt and stuff around there. Maybe in a future video I might come back to this and maybe do a soft mod. Well, I say soft mod, a mod where you can maybe hold the reset button down. That's the power button. Hold the reset button down for maybe, I don't know, several seconds. So I was thinking about actually monitoring one of the controller inputs as well. So you'd have to hold down reset and press, I don't know, a button, maybe A or something, in order to get it to change region. And I maybe could change the LED here for, you know, a 2 or 3 colour LED to indicate the region, and get it to change the language at the same time as the 50/60 Hz stuff as well. That would be quite nice. You know, I could always retrofit that mod into the Mark I here, because if you remember when I did the Mega CD region upgrade to that, you know, I wrote some software there for the PIC. The way it works on here is you've got to hold the reset button down. Now there are some issues doing that actually. That, you know, there's a legitimate reason to hold the reset button down with the Mega CD in order to eject the drawer and stuff. So that's one problem when you do that. But I mean, I could just extend the length of the holding reset down for, I don't know, several seconds, you know, 10 seconds, just so it's not interfering with that normal process. But also it would be cool if the Mega Drive switched over, you know, its settings at the moment. The Mega Drive's got switches on the back for the 50/60 Hz into English and Japanese. So it would be cool to, you know, maybe to retrofit that in my Mark I at some point. But that'll be a future video. I'm not going to do it in this video. And bear in mind, if you've got something like this, you don't necessarily need to do the 50/60 Hz mod. I mean, obviously, your system's going to run at 50 Hz, but you can run games from other regions and things, you know, obviously accepting a difference in time in there. You know, the sound might be run a bit slower or a bit faster, etc., depending on which system you've got. But I can play any game of any region on this. And it's the same with the Master System as well. I can play any of the Master System games. So whilst I wait for the lid to dry, you know, I thought I'd just waffle a bit. You know, these machines, Mega Drives, are lovely machines. They really are. You know, the whole blast processing thing, you know, and all that was thrown around at the time. They are pretty powerful machines, really. I mean, the SNES is, you know, arguably technically superior. You know, the SNES has got, you know, better graphics capabilities, if you like, and the sound as well, actually. I do quite like the sound of the SNES, but there's a lot to be said about the sound that you get out of a Mega Drive. There's something unique about the way a lot of Mega Drive games sound. I do have a lot of nostalgia for this system, but also when I play new games that I've never played before, it blows me away how great it looks and sounds, actually. I'll probably show you a clip of a demo, you know, a homebrew sort of scene demo towards the end of this video here, when I've got it all reassembled. You can see what I mean. And the other thing I would say about these is they are hard as nails. You know, you compare to the Super Nintendo, many of those are dying now. You're getting faulty PPUs, you know, and faulty CPUs. The components on Mega Drives are generally a lot more reliable. They seriously are. I must have looked at about 15 of these over the last 5 years. I've got about 5 myself in my own collection. I've sold the other ones have all been sold on, and every single one of them has been repairable. In most cases, actually, I would say in something like 70 to 80% of the cases, it has just been a dirty cart slot, nothing more. That can give you a black screen. I think the first Mega Drive video I did on my channel was talking about that, actually. You know, it was when I picked up mine, actually, my Mark I. That was exactly what was wrong with that. It didn't matter how many times you put the cart in, you know, you couldn't get it to boot at all. But having cleaned up the cart slot properly with the lid off, and all, I did also resolder the connections underneath. That sometimes helps as well on the cart slot. It's worked perfectly ever since. Nothing wrong with it. You don't generally need to rush onto one of these and recap again. You know, the caps tend to be good on these again. You know, I'm not going to replace these. I guarantee in 10-20 years from now, this Mega Drive will still be working all right, probably. But it's the cases as well. You know, the cases are bulletproof compared to Super Nintendos. I mean, they do get scratched up a bit. I mean, this one's not too bad. It's a bit dirty. There are 1 or 2 little scratches. You can see it's all fluff and dust more than anything on that one. But they are pretty resilient, actually. You know, they don't break. The plastic doesn't go brittle like it does in the Super Nintendos, you know, when it goes yellowed. because of the bromine or whatever it is, bromine. So yeah, Mega Drives are a lot more hardy, for sure. And just because we can, I thought, why not show you the Master System version of the game? Let's load New Zealand Story, and then I can show you the Mega Drive version of the same game, the same system. Yeah, so, you know, it's 8-bit. I quite like it, actually. I do quite like the sound and stuff. It's this is different, you know, than the Mega Drive version, as you'll see in a minute. And there's the Mega Drive version. Yeah, so it's still a great version, actually, the Mega Drive version, but there's kind of something special about the Master System version as well, actually. You know, there's sort of differences there in the sound and the graphics. So just reassembled it here, and one thing crossed my mind. It would be good if there was if you could couple the shielding here with the heatsink, but actually that already takes place. If you look at this, once this screws in here pretty firm, the heatsink actually presses right on the shielding here. So the shielding is actually designed as part of the heat shield for this. You know, the heat will dissipate through there. You can sort of see a colour difference there where that's been pressing on there. Yeah, so the heat will dissipate through those blades there, the very fine ends of those blades, in through the shielding. And I guess that's why this gets super hot without this on. Actually, you'd probably find if you left this on for an hour with you know, it assembled, took the lid off, you'd feel this, and this would be quite warm, this shielding all around here. So it is important that, you know, when you reassemble one of these, don't just go, I don't want the shielding, don't stick the shielding on. So while we're here, I thought we'd have a quick look inside this Virtua racing car. Actually, it's the one game I don't, you know, I can't play with the Everdrive, so I thought I'll get a physical copy of this. You can see there's this heat spreader here and some thermal compounds. So I'm going to wipe that down with IPA and replace it with some fresh stuff. I think this went on sort of like that, and then went back into the case there. Pretty cool. So I mean, there's not much else on here really. A RAM up here, and there's the ROM. And then a couple of caps. These may need swapping out actually. Those are those type you get on Game Gears, the awful things. So I might just inspect closely around there just to make sure I don't see any signs of leakage. But yeah, I mean, it should be okay. But yeah, in years to come they may need swapping out. Yeah, working sweet. So as you can see, my nail polish arrived. That's not the green I was going for actually. It's kind of like a metallic-y sort of light green. Yeah, it's wet. I'm going to wipe that off in a minute, don't worry. So yeah, but I mean, it'll cover the trace up. If I get a bit of that on the board, it should do the trick. That's the main thing, is just to isolate it. And someone did suggest, you know, this a while back. I'd appreciate if anyone's got an idea of what kind of green to go for. You know, I don't know, provide a link to eBay or something, some cheap dark green nail polish or something that's not got the metallic-y bits in it and it's not quite as light as that, then yeah, I'd appreciate that. Well, it won't come off, so I'm having to use the fiberglass. It won't come off, so I'm having to use the fiberglass brush to try and get it off actually. It's turned into a manicure, this. Yeah, so all I'm going to do here is just try and get a blob of it and drop it over that area actually. We'll try and get a couple of blobs just over where the damage was there. Yeah, that's not too bad. So I mean, you could always get that off, you know, that's the thing, this stuff's not absolutely permanent. You could use, I forgot what it's called now, acetone is it? Yeah, you could use acetone to get that off. But it's just going to protect those traces. We'll do the same thing up here with these. You know, it's like I say, it is the complete wrong colour. It's not the colour I was looking for. Got to hope that the shininess in it is not like little bits of metal. Because yeah, that could be the next thing. I could be removing all this with some acetone to try and get it working again. Wouldn't that be funny? No, it wouldn't actually. You know, and it's almost transparent. That's the sort of thing I was looking for, really. You know, so you can still see through it, and you can still see the connection, but it'll go hard and just protect that area. testing a bit of Rolling Thunder 2 here. Fantastic. One thing I would say is I kind of prefer the sound output on the Mark 1 actually. It's just a bit cleaner, I think. So I just tested a bit of sonic here. I've got an RGB lead, as you can see. It looks fantastic actually. And it was a bargain. It was £3 for a Mark II RGB lead. Now, generally, you get junk for that price. Now, that's what I was expecting. I just want something cheap to test with. But it turns out it's the best lead I've got, actually. It's better than some of the £15, £20 leads I bought previously. It gives a better picture, which I find incredible for the £3. And it's stereo. You know, a lot of those composite leads, certainly, are not wired correctly with regards to one of the sound channels there. Hopefully you can hear this. It's funny the things you forget. Just listen. Hang on. Listen for the hissing. Hear that? That hissing noise. I thought there was a problem with one of the DACs. I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh no, what's going on with the sound on this? And then I thought, is it the waterfall? Is it because you're at the point of the waterfall here? And I went away to check on YouTube. Is it stops there? It's gone away. Yeah, I went to check on YouTube and yeah, that's what it is. It's in-game sound. It's waterfall sound. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I just never noticed that on the Mark 1 before. Maybe it's, yeah, the sound is slightly different from the Mark 2. It seems to have a more clarity to it, but it's flatter in places as well. I don't know. There's something I do prefer, I think, about the Mark 1 sound. So I said I'd show you a quick demo here actually. If you go to the demo folder, Sega Megadrive 2. It's pretty sweet. Just show you what the capabilities of the Mega Drive were actually. Because I mentioned earlier about the SNES being technically superior, and actually on paper it's not. The Mega Drive is superior to the SNES. that was pretty damn impressive. Hey, Lead 2D Graphics, Alien. Alien did the graphics there for the Super SD System 3, and he worked on the Neo SD, I think, with Terra Onion. And I've shown this before on my channel, but it's very impressive. Yeah, so when you play on the Bad Apple demo here, you can hear the sounds a bit off. And this is because this demo is developed for 60 Hz. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll just cut over to the other Megadrive and we'll just hear the difference actually. It should be a lot clearer. Set 60 Hz. It's much clearer. Yeah, so it sounds, the sound is definitely clearer, but this, the 60 Hz thing is the issue with this demo. So I will need to do, a 50, 60 Hz mod at some point. So whilst it's been in the sink, we've still got a little bit of dirt here, so I'll use some soap and water and a brush just to get that out. Everything else looks okay. We've got the odd mark here that needs to come off with plastic cleaner, and it just looks a bit marked and scratched up and stuff, so we'll get the plastic cleaner on there, the Plastex, and then finally some back to black, and it should come up good as new. So I've got a little bit of Plastex there, and we'll just see if we can get that little white mark off with Plastex. There you go, can you see it's gone? You see that? Look how much darker and shiny the plastic is from that. That's the difference that plastic polish makes actually. So I will just go over the whole thing actually, just lightly, try and go in little circles and things, and as you'll see it will come up like new, and this will remove any ingrained dirt and stuff in the plastic, because whilst it looks clean because it's been washed in the sink, you do find that, can you see that? See the colour of that? There, it's like a little bit brown. It brings off dirt that you cannot see and that the brush will not bring off. It's like kind of, let's say, ingrained in the surface of the plastic there. You do need to use a brush to get some of the bits of polish out, but hopefully you can see the contrast there. If you look at the areas I've not done over here compared to this area is looking really nice actually. Yeah, so that's with a quick polish. There's bits of dust settling on there. You can get bits of dust going into the little grooves and things. You can use a little toothbrush or something just to get the dust and things out those bits. But as you can see, that looks absolutely amazing. And after we get a coat of back to black on there, just give that a wipe down, it will look good as new. I've seen some people use like WD-40 to do that, or furniture polish. I mean, you can use those sort of things. One thing I would say with WD-40 is it's a solvent. You don't really want solvents on plastics, but it will work. It will give a shine back, and I personally wouldn't like the smell of WD-40, but some people do that kind of thing, and it will work. Or furniture polish, like Pledge or something. That will also do a similar job actually. I think with the polish you've probably got a better chance of not affecting the plastic in a negative kind of way, although I would imagine WD-40 is probably alright to use on these things. But yeah, that's back to black, as you can see, just makes it look brand new. That looks like a brand new Megadrive that's just come out of the box. So I haven't polished underneath, I've just given it a gentle wipe actually with some soap and water. It just needs to be clean really. I'm not bothered about it looking all shiny and new. But the one thing you will do, I know you can see that, you can see a little red cross. Yeah, a bit like that PC Engine CD-ROM someone's marked it according to its state of play, you know, an X to indicate faulty. So we'll remove that, and I think we'll get a label on this one while we're here as well. There's a bit of tape there, you can see that. We'll see if we can just get that off with a bit of IP8 as well. Yep, that's come off. Yeah, so I've got a label on there that says, you know, working, thumbs up, you know, blast processing, thumbs up. I thought that's not enough. So I thought, why not supplement it with another label? And hopefully you can see what I've done there. So there you go, she's a beaut. Hopefully you found that interesting. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.